Hi, my name is Renzo COF, and I am here, and my claim is the ban on the production of foie gras ultimately hurts the food industry in California. I can tell you guys might not exactly know what foie gras is, so I'll define it for you. Foie gras, in French, is translated as fat liver, and it is an enlarged, it's a food, it's a dish, it's a delicacy that that is made by enlarging the liver of a goose or a duck. So, and the way you enlarge it, and where the controversy arises with this ban is, or what this ban says is that it's immoral and unethical to make foie gras because the process of making it is through a method of force feeding. And the force feeding takes place in the last 10 days of the goose's life, and there isn't any sufficient data backing up that the force feeding process actually causes physical pain to the goose. So, foie gras has been a delicacy enjoyed by ancient Egyptian, Roman, and Greek cultures. And in the Dark Ages, Jewish cultures would produce foie gras not only for the liver, but also for a byproduct of goose fat, which was the only type of fat they could actually cook with. I'm pretty sure that's because goose fat at the time was kosher and other types of fat weren't. This leads into my first secondary claim, that the California statute banning the production of foie gras is too vague. The statute defines force feeding as a process that causes the bird to consume more food than a typical bird of the same species would consume voluntarily. Well, this definition could easily extend to the production of several other foodstuffs. For example, your Thanksgiving Day turkey. The ban that prevents the production of foie gras could also set a precedent that would prevent the production of basically any poultry, because there are actually, most poultry that's mass produced is overfed. So, to add on to this, the process of producing foie gras may also yield other delicacies, as I mentioned before. The method used to make foie gras also produces many other dishes, such as cooking fat, as I said before, and goose meat, and other stuff. So as a result, some restaurants may be prevented from cooking a whole variety of foods. So the California statute banning the production and sale of foie gras also results, this is my secondary claim, that this ban also results in a loss of jobs. There are 3 major foie gras producers in the United States. 2 are in New York and 1 is in California. Granted that the one in California isn't the largest one and only produces about 15% of the foie gras for the nation, but it does produce foie gras for several of states around California. So, and this is a legitimate company, it's a legitimate business, and because of the ban that they were forced to shut down in July 2012, and with that they had to lay off a decent workforce. This company basically they shipped approximately 1,500 ducks a week. So this leads me into the statute. It says that banning the production and sale of foie gras infringes on people's right to enjoy the food. The city of Chicago actually banned the production and sale of foie gras, and the law was actually soon overruled. And as Monica Davey, the Times Chicago bureau chief, says, the ban had been a source of embarrassment for the city, and the repeal comes as residents have accused officials of trying to micromanage people's lives, and it was kind of categorized in the same category as banning other things like smoking and stuff. So, as I have argued, the law that prevents the production and sale of foie gras in California, while potentially meaning well and potentially trying to fix a ethical problem, actually ends up hurting California's food culture and food industries. Thank you.
All right, well, the proposition is identified clearly. There's no preview of what the supporting points are going to be, but you do signpost them as you get to them. So internal structure's okay, but I think you want to help your audience out a little bit more by giving them more structure at the beginning. You did give us a good background on the issue and what was going on, and I thought that that helped clarify things pretty well. Earlier I was making a comment about how small the one industry was. You know, the notion that this is going to hurt California's food industry is not necessarily a bad idea, but in terms of quantification, it's a little bit thin. We have the one business that shut down that provided 15% of the foie gras in the country, and it basically had to shut down, but we didn't get any data on how many jobs were lost, on what it's done to California businesses, whether or not the restaurant industry, for instance, is hurt in some way because of their inability to do this anymore. That seems like it's, you know, the place where there's the most information missing. The argument on the other points is okay, that there are benefits to having this, or that there is a reason for having it. It's, you know, one of those things where there's probably not much denial that there are some products that you can get as a result of producing foie gras that are unique, but on the other hand, are they significant? That's where I think you need to develop it a little bit more. The idea, for instance, that it would be the only kosher produced fat, I think that's an interesting one, because that would suggest that there really is a justification for having this, but it doesn't really get developed and utilized that way. And the absence of, you know, if there was an absence of other substitutes, then maybe this is really an important justification, because it has, you know, it's denying people who follow a particular cultural diet from having access to food products that would be good for them or that they might enjoy. It's discriminatory against a particular group. I think that might have been a good way to go on that point as well. The information, you've got some factual data here and there. There's not really a lot of authority. You've got the one example. The discussion of Chicago is an interesting one, but I'm not exactly sure that it gets you much. So so it's embarrassing to the city of Chicago, but that's mostly based on the value that this seems like they're being micromanaged by, you know, do-gooders, so to speak, as opposed to it had any impact on, you know, the city's fine dining establishments or anything like that. So it's an interesting argument, and I know, you know, when we had it on the ballot, it came up and was discussed, but it doesn't seem to me. I guess part of the problem is I'm not consuming a lot of foie gras, so you know, I don't feel personally motivated as much by it as I should, and that might be one of the things that's missing from the argument. You need a little bit more of that kind of stuff about, you know, how widely it's consumed, or how it affects the status of restaurants or California's reputation in the culinary world or something like that. Maybe to give it a little bit more justification and a little bit more weight. All right, thank you.